Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Money and Mindset podcast. I am your host, Sheryka Alford, here with.
Anntricia Bray Smith.
Today, we have the pleasure of being joined by Kristen Edwards, or better known as Coach Kids on Instagram. And she's going to help us determine if we're holding ourselves back. Um, I know a lot of us, we have all these grand ideas and things that we like to accomplish, but sometimes those voices in our heads and that self talk causes us to hold our own selves back. And Kristen, since she's a business strategy coach and she knows all about psychology and used to be a life coach, I think she's pretty qualified to let us know how to determine if we're holding ourselves back or not. So, Kristen, if you would please introduce yourself and tell us about you.
Hello, ladies, and thank you so much for the opportunity to join you for this conversation. So, as you mentioned, I am a strategy coach for women entrepreneurs, but my background is actually in HR training and recruiting. I have a master's in psychology. It started out with me being obsessed with things like the MBTI and DISC. Then I started certifications on all of these things. So I incorporate the Enneagram into my coaching as well. Knowing our personality is what really gives us the opportunity to have a business that works for us and not just us working for it. And honestly, you can use these tools in your personal life as well as business, your career, your family relationships, all the things. But I'm so excited to join you. I started out as a coach back in 2016 as a life coach, and I really just wanted women to create their best lives, enjoy what they were doing, reach their goals, and actually just get it done. And so that's evolved from not just creating your best life in terms of personal goals, but also getting paid for the things that you love. So, how can you show up authentically online, literally get paid for what used to be a hobby and what used to just be something that, like, I would do this for free? Because truth is, I would still do this for free, but my kids have to eat, so I'm going to show up and I'm going to get paid for it in the process. And also, something that one of my first business coaches taught me, and I've held on to till this day, is that the transformation is in the transaction. And so as soon as we are willing to exchange time for money, energy for money, then we're able to actually get the breakthrough that we want in reaching our goals and have that accountability to actually see what we want in action. So, slowly, unofficially, never planned on it. Like, it was not my goal written down when I was 10 years old, but did become a business strategy coach. And I absolutely love the work that I do and just helping people create their best life and get paid to do what they love and have a business that works for them instead of them grinding and hustling all the time to reach that success.
That is great. I was sitting here listening to you talking about the assessments, personality assessments, the Myers-Briggs, and also the DISC assessment. Now, the DISC is new for me. I've just recently started looking over that. But the Myers-Briggs is nothing new. But that's something that many other business strategists leave out. Some people leave out that component of how important it is that the personality matches up to what it is that we say we want to do or desire to do. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because that will definitely set you apart from others that is just telling you to get out here and go live, get out here and do this, get out here and do that. And, we just spin wheels, so to speak. So I think that is highly important. And there's other assessments and stuff like that are out there on the market for people to use. I actually used one with the IMSA group there in the beginning when we first started putting IMSA together. And so it's amazing to see how accurate those are when you're implementing it for cause of entrepreneurship and other interest ideas. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely. And like you said, there's a lot of assessments out there. I don't think it technically matters which one. I have fallen in love with the Enneagram. And so now I'm biased and thinking it's the best, but truthfully, they are all powerful tools for us to use. I think the important thing with that is to know that it's not just a test, and it's not just for you to get to go around and say like, oh, I'm an Enneagram type 8, I'm an INTJ. Those are my types, by the way. But it's not about getting to know what box you check. When you recognize your personality type, it actually opens up a box for you, because then you have a sense of clarity about what your purpose is. You gain confidence because now you have words to articulate what your cousins made fun of you for being weird of, which they're still going to do because that's a cousin's job in life, right? Just to call you out. But instead of having that aspect, you're now able to say, I own who I am. I own that this is how God made me, and I'm here for it. I hope you guys are here for the ride as well. So it gives you that confidence to then step up. And like the other business coaches are saying, to show up live on social media, to start a podcast, a YouTube video, Facebook, whatever that platform is that you're using. When you know yourself and you have the confidence of this is who I am and this is how I can help you, then it's easier to say, all right, let's go live. Let's record this podcast and take those next steps towards your goals. But also knowing what I love about the Enneagram most is that it gives you the why. It talks about your core desires. And at the end of the day, I want to see people advocate for themselves. I'm an Enneagram type 8, which makes me, social media gives us a bad rep. It talks about us being the challenger and being insensitive and like all these things. But at the end of the day, I am going to advocate for you to become your best life, and I'm going to protect those I love. So if you are my client, I am out here to fight to the death for you. Like, we are going to make sure that your success happens. No excuses. Come hell or high water, we're going to see your success on the other end. So that's where that personality typing comes in and becomes like this really awesome tool as well.
So, Kristen, what are a couple of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome as you've built your business over the years? Because I know this isn't the only business venture that you've had. You've had several, and I'm sure with that there are different obstacles that come along. Do you mind sharing some of those with us?
Yeah, so I, went to college and did the things that you're supposed to do. And I was planning on climbing the corporate ladder. I don't think I ever wanted to be a CEO, but that's what I was supposed to do. And, one thing that I realized, I ended up in sales training and like this recruiting area. And after a while, like, it just becomes very repetitive. I'm meeting new people, I'm having great conversations, but I'm still pitching the same thing every day. And what I missed was the creative element. So I actually started a wedding planning business first because I wanted to bring that creative side of me. I grew up a theater and performing arts kid. I did hair, makeup, and costumes, like all these things behind the scenes. And so wedding planning was like the business that seemed to make sense at the time. And from planning weddings and helping brides to navigate life at the end of it, because at least in America, when you're planning a wedding, you're working full time, you need a part-time job to fund your wedding. Planning the wedding in and of itself is a job, and then you need to maintain the relationships with your friends, your family, your fiance, like all these things. And so I was having a blast doing this, but at the same time was in my quarter life crisis moment and started going on my own personal development journey and realized the value of goals and productivity and making it happen. So I started working with my brides on creating their best life, and eventually realized that it wasn't just the wedding planning side, it was actually the personal development that I loved most. So then I became a life coach. From being a life coach, doing all the things, loved it. Was still in corporate, by the way, with all of this, but coaching on the side. And by the time I had my second child, every dollar that I was making as a life coach, because I was meeting people in person at Starbucks, Panera, that kind of thing, it was going to gas money and it was going to childcare for 2 kids. And like, that's $1 million as well. So it was like, I'd pick my kids up from daycare and then school, and then drop them off to a babysitter. And the entire profit that I was supposed to make as a life coach was going right to the babysitter. And so after I started to be like, there has to be another way. There's got to be something else. And that's when I realized you could take your business online. And I will be completely honest, I just had no idea about this online business stuff. I thought everything was in person. So thank God that was 2019. I moved my business online. And as we all know, 2020 happened. So couple months ahead of the curve on that one. And it really just became a point in time where I was like, I have to invest in myself. I have to invest in the life that I want and creating that. And in the process, I lost my full-time corporate role because as a recruiter, no one was hiring in 2020 as well. And so I had to make the choice of, do I look for a job when I have a background that I know no one's hiring people to hire, just looking at our economy, being very realistic, or I could make my side hustle my full-time job. And so I went all in on my business. I leveled up with the coach that I needed to get me through through that. And thank God that, you know, I was able to actually double my corporate income, and I'm paying off debts and paying student loans, and still providing for my kids in that environment. And so it has definitely been a journey. But one of the things that I had to lean into, and I know I'm making it sound like it's super fluffy and sugar coated, but every single step of the way, it was like, well, you messed up somewhere, because if you had not become a recruiter, then you wouldn't have lost your job. Like if you had done something better, then you would have kept it. Like I didn't predict anything to happen in 2020. So it doesn't matter what your career is, because everyone had hardships. And even if you maintained your 9 to 5, there was a question, like there was just a natural question on like, is my company gonna make it as well? And so just kind of recognizing those different layers. And then the other thing for me was social media marketing. I can coach. Absolutely. I'm here. I will challenge you. I will push you. We can plan, we can develop all the things to get you to the finish line. But I'm navigating my own reality of going through 2020. How do I get out there and get visible, show up on camera consistently? Because it's not just like, oh, I went live one time and let me ghost you for 6 months, right? You need to show up enough on social media, not because, and I don't mean like 20 times a day, like that's ridiculous. No one has time for that. But to recognize that if I'm not showing up on camera, my client's not going to trust that I'm going to show up for her. That is the main reason that you are putting face to camera, because when I type something, we all know that things get mixed up in context when you see words on a page, right? But when she can see my face and my facial reactions, which are extra because I'm a theater girl, which she can hear my tone of voice. And so that's what makes podcasting great. That's what makes video great, is because you can see the inflections. You can see when I'm excited, you know how I'm going to react. But also when I call you out, you know that I'm calling you out in love. If I call you out in a text message, you don't know that. If I call you out in just a Facebook post, you don't see the love, the passion, the desire for your success the same way that you'll hear it in my voice, that you'll see it on my face. And so that's why we show up. But that was a hurdle for me, because I was very comfortable in terms of social media. Let me take a pretty picture. I've got plenty of brand photos. Let me throw up a pretty brand photo, give you an I love Jesus quote, and keep it moving. And I was like, oh, that doesn't work. Oh, my bad. And so I wish that that was the option. But at the end of the day, if you want transformation, you have to show someone that you're willing to show up for them, that you're going to put in the time. If someone's going to pay you, there's an exchange, right? We don't live back in the day when people used to like sell a cow and like use that to like, go build a farm. Like there's not that kind of transaction. Where we live and how we do things, money is our exchange system. And so in my opinion, time, energy, and money are all equal. I can give you 20 hours or I can give you $2,000. It's the same thing. And the energy that comes into that, right? Like if I am breaking a sweat or literally grinding through my brain doing research and my eyes are glazing over, it's all the same. And so I rather personally give a coach my money that's going to save me all of the time to get the transformation, to get to my goal as well. And I think one of the hardest things for me, like I said, was that showing up, that visibility. And then not just showing up on Instagram, but also to make sure that that you can show your authority in the space. You have to put yourself out there, like on places like Forbes and Fast Company and Thrive Global and Medium, to get on bigger named podcasts and to be featured in all these places. And for me, I was taught, be humble, right? People will see you for your greatness, and just The thing is, social media didn't exist when my parents were raising me, and that's totally fine. But just when we update to where we are now, no one's going to recognize your value if you don't tell them. Now, I'm not saying get braggy about it. I'm not saying be extra about it, but you simply have to state the facts. Here are the facts. I am educated. Here are the facts. I'm overeducated. Here are the other facts, is that I have the experience. Here are my client results. So I didn't just do this for me. I've done it for other people, and I've done it in a repeated way. And that's why I also think it's important that, especially in the coaching space, that you have a framework. Even if you customize it on a one-to-one basis with your clients, you should have a framework in place that says, these are steps 1, 2, and 3. Now we can customize that plan again, but steps 1, 2, and 3 to getting your finances in order. Steps 1, 2, and 3 for getting your mindset in order. Steps 1, 2, and 3 for having a lifelong marriage, right? If you don't want to go through this headache and this struggle, here are the 3 steps, up to 5 steps. After 5 steps, you've just done too much, or go write a book. But like, here's, 3 to 5 steps of the transformation that I know is repeatable. So like, I created the unlock method, and it's priorities, productivity, and progress. We're going to know about my priorities. What are my goals? What are my desires? What are my dreams? Because at the end of the day, you need to know why you started your business. Whatever that business is, you got to know why. And then let's create a plan. We got to be productive about it, because we don't want to waste time. And then the third thing is to take consistent action. It does not happen overnight. And anyone who's happened overnight is going to, say, disappear overnight as well. I was trying to come up with a good word. And so you want to have consistent progress. If it took me 6 months to get here, then I want to make sure that I have 6 more months of sustainability to go with that effort. And so it takes time. Yes, we might see them blow up after they get on Shark Tank, but we all know how many years they were grinding out before they got that big break on Shark Tank. And so taking consistent action to have that progress of reaching our goals, and that's how you unlock your best life.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's a lot to swallow. A lot to swallow. Okay, but you said something that triggered me, and that was, how we second guess ourselves. And I guess it just brings us right back to the topic today. Are you holding yourself back? And many times, and it's what I tried to share with people now, we are the only ones that are holding ourselves back. Whether it's our insecurities with whether or not we have the knowledge, our insecurities with our body image or our physical image, our insecurities in saying that I'm not good enough, I don't fit here, I don't fit there. And one of the things with the larger platforms and more established places, like you mentioned Forbes and some of the others that you mentioned there, Forbes or whatever it was, you mentioned some of the larger platforms, is that they're not coming for us. Is it not true that you have to reach out? They don't know us. They don't know who we are and what it is that we do. And if we're not putting it out there, what are we here for? What are we showing up for at the end of the day? So are you good enough? Do you have what it takes? And of course you do, because you're doing what you do and it comes naturally. You're expanding, you're developing. So yes, you have what it takes. But when you look at the other people that you, in your mind, are saying they've already arrived, or that they're better than me, or that they know more than I do, that oftentimes, that's a lie, guys. We're telling ourselves that, and we are the ones that are holding ourselves back. Sitting in front of a camera, if you had told me a year and a half ago that I'd be sitting in front of the camera, I'd have told you was a lie. But I sat in front of the camera for 2020. I sat there every night, sometimes not even really understanding what I was doing, sitting there and talking to people as we were going through some of the most difficult times in our life. But the strength came from somewhere, the knowledge came from somewhere, the content came from somewhere. It was already in me. Now I could sit in the comforts of my home and just keep it all in. I could go and I could write it in a book. I could have the conference and keep everybody feeling good for a couple hours. But do you know what we mastered and overcame in 2020? We didn't do that solo. We didn't do that without purpose. It is all divinely connected to this very day right now. And so I posed a question to you right now in this moment. Are you holding yourself back? Because we can't look to the right and to the left and try to blame and try to say, oh, that opportunity or the doors are not opening. How bad do you want it? How bad do you want it? Now, me, I know where my issues lie, and I know what I'm willing to do and what I'm not willing to do. I know that there's no one else in this creation can hold me back to get where I desire to go or where I see myself going other than myself. And it's been proven year after year after year. There was a lot I didn't know that I didn't know. But in 2020, when the shift began to happen, either I'm going to sink or I'm going to swim. And it's no different than anybody else. We're all on a level playing field. All of us. So how bad do you want it? And who are you going to connect with? Who are you going to network with? Who are you going to collaborate with? Who are you going to use as a mentor or a mentee to help get you where you desire to be? Are you holding yourself back?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So good.
Guys, if you're just joining us on the Money and Mindset podcast, we have special guest Kristen Edwards here, also known as Coach Kids on Instagram. I want you to share with us, Kristen, and you know it's going to come up. So you have all this knowledge and you help people to get to their best lives and you know all about the confidence and all the things. Does that mean that you've overcome those voices, you know, the voices that we all hear? And I'm asking the question just so that you can share with us. You did a post maybe about I don't know, maybe it's been a month ago or so on Instagram sometime. I don't know. But you were just sharing with us very transparent. And I appreciate that, how you were had to fill out some paperwork. And it was just that you were getting all the things that you wanted, but for whatever reason, you were kind of dragging your feet a little bit. Do you mind sharing with us?
Yeah. So, you know, again, we know that it doesn't matter how great you are. If no one knows that the opportunity is there for you to help them, for you to serve them, nothing goes anywhere, right? I can know in my mind that I'm not qualified, in case anyone's wondering, but like I can know in my mind that I can do the world's greatest brain surgery. I could have done all the work, the research, the tools. If I don't apply to work at a hospital, no one's getting brain surgery, because at least in America, you need to be affiliated with a hospital to be doing brain surgery. And so it's the same thing when it comes to online business. If people don't know you exist, you can't serve them. And, you know, I kind of mentioned before that I had to learn how to show up online because it wasn't something that I was taught. And so I'm working with a publicity strategist and had an amazing opportunity to, you know, throughout 2020, I was getting featured on podcasts. And then my next opportunity was to be featured in a couple large online platforms. And she was like, this is your chance. All you need to do is fill this out and send me the email and I'll take care of the rest. And I was like, okay, thanks. Left it. Week and a half later, I was like, hey, I'm working on it and I'm going to get it out to you next week. Nothing. And when I thought about it, I was like, what is so hard? What is so hard? I know what I do. I know who I serve. Am I really that scared of being seen? Like, what if my business blows up and I make $1 million? Like, what are you scared of, Kristen? And I had to acknowledge that. And then at the same time, I'm not someone who does very well with the intrinsic motivation. I kind of need the accountability and pleasing other people. Like if I'm really honest, I want other people to pat me on the back because I'm human. And so I was like, well, you know what? If I want accountability, I have to create it. And so part of that post, that video, and it's still out there in case anyone actually wants to see it. Part of that video was me kind of saying, one, hold me accountable. So if you're seeing this, you get to hold me accountable. I'm going to send this email before I go to bed tonight. And then the other part of it was like, I know I'm not the only one. And whether it's your first day in business or 10 years and you have the opportunity for an amazing feature, it's really hard for us to say, yeah, let's go out there and do this. And we want, like Anntricia was saying, we want to blame someone else. We want to say it's their fault that I didn't get this opportunity. And it's so-and-so's fault that I missed X, Y, and Z. And like, it's my kid's fault that I'm running 10 minutes late, like whatever the excuses that we come up with. But the truth of the matter is, my guess is your kid is not a day old. And so you could have planned and prepared to get you and your child out of the house on time. And it's the exact same thing. You had the opportunity to plan and prepare to reach your goals. And so all I had to do was sit down and type the email. And literally, I mean, it was like, explain what you do. This is my niche. How do you help? This is my thing. What is your signature offer? This is my thing. Like, it was simple. And I delayed it for almost 3 weeks because I was scared of being seen and heard, ? Like, I was scared of helping others. And it's just one of those things that you have to realize, like, there are no other excuses. I asked for opportunity. I said I wanted publicity. I said I wanted to impact people's lives. Write the email so that you can start making that impact, that you can grow your audience and help more people. Because at the end of the day, I know I'm not going to become a millionaire from that one email. Like, it might happen, but realistically, the email itself is not going to make me a millionaire. But how many lives can I change? How many people are also going to, like you said, see that video and recognize I am holding myself back. I also need accountability. You're not in this alone. And so again, whether you started your business last week, you've been doing this for 5 years, or you got 50 years of experience, the mindset journey never ends. The mindset drama keeps coming back. But if you want to make an impact, then be honest with your situation and help others. And again, if you don't have, just realistically, I don't have that intrinsic motivation of like, I'm going to get it done because I said so. Some people do, and that's amazing. But if you need that accountability, if you need a mentor to hold your hand, then do it in a way that it's going to say, hey, hold me to this. I had an accountability coach a long time, well, I guess 2 years ago now, that literally said, like, if she didn't meet a goal, she gave anywhere from $20 to $100 to a charity. So she would literally say, hey, I did not, work out 4 times this week like I promised myself for my own health goals, right? We all want money in our bank account. And so you don't want to beat yourself up. You want to do something traumatizing to yourself, but the money's leaving your bank account. And so at the end of the day, she's like, I still lost $100 because I didn't show up and do it. So she donated the money to charity. It was still a good cause, but recognizing like what holds me accountable. If there's something that you are driven by, and not everyone's motivated by money, I get that, but find out what motivates you and give yourself accountability with an external factor, because for the most part, if we won't drive ourselves, we don't want to let someone else down as well. And so that's what I had to do. Gave myself some public accountability along the way.
So I know that there's an old school out there like me that's saying this new modern age kind of thing is not for me. Well, I say lies, lies, and more lies. I too, for years, as a businesswoman for over 20 years, 19, 20 years, I believe. I can't remember exactly right off the bat. I think it's 19 years. I'm in my 19th year. I was brick and mortar. I was behind the scenes, have always been. I came out like this on lives and just overnight. And it was something that I know that I had to do. I had to hold myself accountable at that point because nobody I was connected to was showing up online. We've always been in the brick and mortar. Always. So my challenge to you, if you're like me, and maybe this has not been your world, this has not been your scene, my challenge to you is to just do it, whatever it is. Whatever it is, whether you're in ministry, I know that there's so many in ministry and they continue to try to do it the old way, try to continue to keep afloat, whether you're providing some kind of product or service. We don't know who you are. People out here could benefit from what you have. My challenge to you is to just do it. And when I say just do it, learn the skills you need, connect with the people that you need to connect with, and give yourself the grace to even make mistakes, because we all made them, we all been there. But whatever you do, don't continue to hold yourself back and thinking that things are going to change. You have to implement the formula like Miss Kristen has shared with us today.
I think one thing to add to that is not just do it, but do it scared. Like, let's not pretend like we know it and we got it. Like, it's okay to literally show up, however that is, and say, hey, by the way, this is my first time and I'm going to mess up my whole way through it. Embrace the fears that come with that. And it's okay to, one, say it publicly, right? Your first day at work when you were 18 years old or 22 years old, whatever age, you were not perfect. And the same way, if you're doing something new, you're still not perfect. And it's totally okay to say, hey, I'm scared and I'm showing up anyways. And I think the other thing that I will add to that is, if you wait so long to learn and perfect your craft that on your first day you don't mess up, you waited way too long. Like, if you show up and you start a podcast and every single person on day one, you have 1 million downloads, you should have started that podcast 5 years ago. If you start a YouTube channel and on day 4, you have 50,000 subscribers, you waited way too long to start that YouTube channel. So it's already within you, and it's totally fine to mess up, and it's totally fine to record it and delete it and then re-record it. That's natural. But know that you've got to put it out there and you've got to start somewhere. And as my mentor wrote a whole book on it about failing forward, you're only going to learn by failing. Success and failure are intertwined. They're not separate. And so just go ahead and mess up and then keep moving forward and grow from that.
Yes, thank you so much, Kristen. And speaking of podcasts, I believe there's a podcast, Amplify Ambition. You know anything about that podcast, Kristen?
I think I've heard of it.
Absolutely. Have you now? And actually, it's a great podcast. Amplify Ambition. You recently started that the latter part of 2020. Yes.
Yes. So I started that podcast, and I guess part of what I was saying before is I've kind of wanted a podcast a long time ago, and I thought no one's going to listen to me, and I have a singing background, and so I hate the sound of my voice being recorded back. Singers will get that as well. And so the thought of starting a podcast freaked me out, and I committed and decided to do it. And actually, during election week, while the whole country was waiting for answers, I realized that I was waiting too long on my own goals and my own dreams. And so I took the leap and recorded the first episode, and now we're several months into this, and it's going really well. But the other part of that was actually naming the podcast Amplify Ambition, because you get to dream loudly. These are not something that you should hold back and be secretive of, like, I want to be successful. Then go be successful and make it happen. And so that's also where the name of it came from. But if I'm biased, I'd say yes, it's also a great podcast.
Well, I will most definitely put a link to the podcast in the show notes. Also, again, if you want to reach out to Kristen, she's on Instagram at Coach Cats. I'll include that link too. Before we wrap up this episode, do you have any final words that you'd like to share with our audience?
I mean, I thank you so much for having me as a guest. And I think I would just leave it at the fact that there's no excuses. There's just no reason. And I get fear. I get wanting to be successful and great and all the things. And they're legitimate things to process, but recognize that you can make time if you really want it. There is always time. If there's a will, there's a way to really make something happen. I started my business with just 20 minutes a day, working full time and having 2 kids as a single mom. So literally when I say no excuses, folks, no excuses. You can make your dreams happen.
All right, you've heard it. No excuses. So that wraps up this episode of the Money and Mindset podcast. I'm your host, Sheryka Alford, and she is
Anntricia Bray Smith.
Until next time, take care.